So, Sir Martin, we're here
Yes,
at Advertising
Hillary,
Week.
here we are, yes.
You've said in the past that S4 Capital strategy is to be digital only, not just digital first.
Yes.
Can you
Well,
expand?
it's one of four things, but digital first.
Right.
Yeah.
So, can you expand on that a bit? Tell us what digital first
That's
means.
where the growth is.
Yeah.
So, if I look at the media market, it's about $500 billion. About 225, 250 is digital, which is growing at 20%. The overall 500 is growing at about 5%, so the experts at IPG and WPP say, so it must be right, which means that the other 250 or 275, what's happening to that? It's either flat or down, probably down. And so we're going where the growth is. That's the key thing. So when I was at Saatchi's, that was about globalization, driven by Ted Levitt's article in Harvard Business Review in 1983. WPP was about continuation of globalization and the rise of technology in the 90s. And what S4 is about is purely about tech and the growth of tech. I mean, global, we're in 22 countries already. After a year, we'll probably be in at least 25, maybe a little more. But it's not going to be 113 countries, which it was at WPP. So you can run geographic programs in content, programmatic, first-party data from hubs. You don't have to be in every country, I think. So the primary focus of S4 Capital is tech and growth.
So I'm assuming that at the center of a digital technology-driven strategy is data. Can you explain the role of data for S4 and how that works across the other brands that you've acquired?
Yeah, the second principle, digital first, and then the second principle, or digital only. The second principle is around what we call the Holy Trinity model, maybe inadvisedly, but it's first-party data driving, fueling the development of content and of programmatic, of media. So this is a continuous loop. It's not like big ideas are still critical and still at the center, but these are big ideas delivered in a fit-for-format way and fit for the future way, not traditional and not tentpole campaigns, not a fixed TV film which cannot be modified. In a 24/7 always-on world, it's continuous reinvention. So you take the data, you develop the digital advertising content from the data, you pump it out programmatically, you look at the results, you get more data that improves the content. It's a loop, rather like an election campaign. So I liken it to an election campaign without an election date. So this is a totally different approach. It's not static, it's not linear, this is digital and always on in a 24/7 world. So that's really the model, the new model, which I think we demonstrated in our session just now here at Advertising Week, and we've had some, we're growing a top line of 40% plus, which the agency holding companies would die for. It's true we're at a very small scale, but we're getting bigger all the time, and the second half of the year we'll be growing at an even faster rate.
Right. What do you consider to be the main growth drivers? Are you looking to acquire more companies? How do you see
We use the word acquire. We don't
out?
acquire. We say to people who have these companies, who own these companies, do you want to join the journey? Do you want to share the vision around digital, only digital, the Holy Trinity model? Our mantra, which is faster, better, cheaper. So faster means more agility. Better means better understanding of technology. And cheaper is more efficient. And then the last element, the fourth element, is a unitary structure, trying to truly build one company, not have separate silos and verticals. So we don't have earnouts. We're not interested in earnouts. What we say to companies, we'll do half shares, half cash deal with you. You become shareholders in our overall enterprise, so you have a vested interest in making the overall enterprise work, not just your part of it, which dogs the holding companies. Right. So that's really the philosophy. The primary drive is going to be organic growth, and the primary challenge for us, the opportunity really, is how we can get conversion at scale. I mean, Media Monks, which is our content arm, and Mighty Hive, which is our programmatic arm, are as good as any agencies I've seen in the 40 years I've been in the business. I know that if they get in front of clients, they will convert. The issue for us is how to convert at scale. Our largest client is about $20 million out of this year, probably around $250 million of revenue. We've grown at 50%, or we think we will grow at 50% for the year. The question is, how can we get that 20 to a 60, 70 or 80 million? And I will guarantee you on Beat TV that we'll get there. We'll get there through a mixture of organic growth and deals. but we will have whoppers. I'm totally convinced of that.
What type of clients work best alongside your model?
Well, I think all clients work, I would claim traditional, legacy, and analog, and digital. But I mean, the fact of the matter is the tech clients and the digital clients probably work more effectively because they understand the faster, better, cheaper mantra. And frankly, uncontrolled listed companies where the average CEO lasts for about 5 or 6 years, their time frame is a short to medium term time frame, it isn't long term. Controlled companies, controlled listed companies, or indeed, private family controlled companies, like a Chanel, whatever, they can take a longer view because they have control, they have certainty of ownership, and if they make a mistake, they won't get kicked out.
Right.
I think there is a reticence amongst listed companies, as I say, uncontrolled listed companies, to go far or to go further because they're concerned about whether they will survive.
Right. Do you think that's why so many brands and companies have taken control in-house and have decided to do that all?
No, that's a different point. I think what's happened since 2008 is the growth of zero-based budgeting, which is probably a bit discredited now, given what happened at Kraft Heinz, etc., after the Unilever bid, and we've seen at Coty, for example. The focus on costs reduced the in-house marketing resources, and clients now feel, particularly post-2016, when the walls in the walled gardens were raised, when the platform said we're not going to share the data to the extent that you thought we were going to. So Google, Facebook, Amazon, for privacy reasons, interference in elections, brand safety reasons, whatever the real reason was, good or bad, they said we're not going to share the data. So clients started to say, well, look, we've got to have a more direct relationship with the consumer. We thought we were going to topple Walmart, Carrefour, Tesco's hold on the consumer with the internet. But along came the e-tailers, the e-retailers like Alibaba, like Tencent, like Amazon, who established a direct relationship. So in order to counter that, they're starting to pursue strategies which mean they have to interface with consumers directly through DTC, direct to consumer. So Unilever does Dollar Shave Club, Nestle does Starbucks, Coca-Cola does Costa, to develop a direct relationship either through bricks, through, paradoxically, or intuitively you think it was wrong because of what's happening on the high street and to department stores, but have a direct relationship with consumers through physical retailer, and where you get data, by the way, which drives your relationship, and .com. So you have your range through Amazon, but you have a super range or a different range, even more attractive range directly with consumers through .com. So building databases through bricks and clicks, ironically you would think it was counterintuitive, but particularly in relation to the first channel, is the way they're going.
Right. Do you see, when it comes to these e-retailers as well as the more traditional retailers like a Walmart or a Target, where does retail marketing and shopper data play a role in the future of the data that customers will be given and that companies
Well, it's absolutely critical, and many clients have tremendous databases, but they don't talk to one another. They're not the same platform. It's either because they've grown by acquisition or they've had different CTOs and CIOs or even CMOs who've chosen different systems, in their verticals, and they're not integrated. The banks are a good example of that. Most of them have grown by acquisition. It's very difficult for them to harmonize all the data to a significant degree. So that pooling that data, using that data, integrating that data is critically important, because that's the, people say it's the oil, the new oil, but whether it is or it isn't, that is the material that we will be using to develop content, as we showed in our session, and to develop programmatic. And then we get the results from the programmatic distribution that refines the content in that loop that I mentioned before. So it's a critical part of the process.
Right. And we talk about attribution a lot as a major challenge for marketers. Do you think that that's the biggest obstacle facing CMOs today is understanding what is working best?
I don't think. I think the biggest issue is structural change. I mean, the biggest issue is, I was at Burning Man, have been for 4 times in the last 5 years, and we used the Burning Man from last year, not this year, on our prospectus for, I think it was Mighty Hive, or was it Media Monks? Media Monks. And the reason we did that was we used it as an emblem of creative destruction. And I think, with legacy companies, it's terribly difficult because they pump out the profit and the growth, or not the growth, but they pump out the profit and the cash flow and the margin that the street wants. The problem is, will they change to a digital environment? So I think the biggest issue that clients face is changing their structure as well as the agency structure in legacy companies to attune to the future. The new companies, the disruptors, as Glenn Hutchinson would call it, rather than the disrupted. The disruptors are probably more attuned to doing it. Now, the disruptors at some point in time will become disrupted. So they'll have to deal with the same problems. But that's, digital for S4 Capital will continue to grow at 20%, I think, for a number of years. But at some point in time, we'll run out of road. And so we have to pivot to where the growth is. So getting close to the platforms and the software companies, there are about 14 that I think of. The most prominent of which are the fearsome five: Google, Amazon, Facebook, Tencent, Alibaba. You call the seven sisters, you can throw in Apple and Microsoft. These companies are at the core, and then make it 10 with Adobe and Oracle and Salesforce. Those 10 companies are key in terms of developing understanding, and then you understand from them which way the market's going, because that's key to us, because we're trying to chart where consumers and enterprises are investing their time and money, and where they're developing the growth. So I think those are the biggest challenges.
Right. What do you think is next then, if you were to think about where you're going to pivot to?
I wish I knew what was next. I mean, we've got enough on our hands on integrating a data-driven content and programmatic model. I mean, when you think about AR and VR and AI and all these things, and voice, are all going to have dramatic repercussions and influence on our industry. So we're watching which way that's going, and in our mantra of faster, better, cheaper, the better piece again is understanding technology, not being dependent on any technology. We're very, when we look at the companies we want to partner with and bring in, we're looking for top line growth, we're looking for margin, but we're also looking for lack of vulnerability to disintermediation. I'm not a software engineer, I'm not a coder, I don't speak code, and therefore it's quite difficult for me to figure out which way the market is going technologically. So I just don't want to have any exposure to that. I want to be totally agnostic.
Right. Are you optimistic about the advertising industry now than you might have been in years past?
Well, I am, but the panel I was on last night, it was awful. It was so depressing, like going to a funeral. It was terribly depressing. No, I'm very optimistic because we're in a growth phase. I mean, you give your eye teeth to be growing at 40 or 50%. Long may it continue. We have to keep working at it. And we're getting a lot of traction. I mean, we're involved in a lot of industry reviews at the moment for the digital element. They're doing the whole thing. And they're saying to us, look at the digital element and see whether you can work on that. If you can't, fine. But look at the digital piece. And the clients actually become much more sophisticated, I think, much more considered. It's not like the Mediapalooza 1 and 2 where they were throwing a lot of mud at the wall and seeing how much would stick from a point of view of cost. What they're saying is, we're trying to look at our organization, look at your organization. What are you doing in those areas? What are you seeing? How can we adapt to this new environment? And last night it was almost as though, well, I think it's because most of the people on the panel and most of the people in the room are absorbed more with the 55 or 60% in traditional, in that 500 billion, rather than the 40, 45, 35, whatever it is, that's in digital. And in that area, you can't help but be optimistic.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.